So today we're going to look at interactions among species, and we will look at various relationships that we saw in chapter 1. We're going to talk about them again. So one relationship we're going to look at is predation, and how does that affect population size? So predation involves predators and prey, and both predators and prey are what are known as ecological niches of an organism. So if you're a predator or a prey, that is your niche. That is your role in the ecosystem. So as mentioned, the ecological niche is the role of an organism in an ecosystem. So for example, being a predator or a prey would be an example of that. And for a squirrel, we could say it's part of its niche is to be a primary consumer, that it's prey to owls, and it nests in trees. So predators are organisms that kill and consume other organisms. So that would be the owl in this case, and the prey is an organism that is eaten as food by a predator. So if we take the data of a specific predator-prey relationship, we can make a graph. And pretty much all predator-prey graphs look like the one you see here. The predator-prey graph for the lynx and the hare. So I'll just write that: predator versus prey graph. So we see that there's a lot of up and down happening. And if we look at a specific point in the graph, we can analyze exactly what's going on. In fact, there's two things going on. There's one thing called bottom-up regulation, and this is where the bottom of the food chain controls the higher up part of the food chain. So as the number of hares decreases, that's the bottom, the number of lynx decreases as well. Why? Because there's less food for the lynx to eat. Okay, so that's called bottom-up regulation. So where could we see this happening in the graph? Well, on this graph, there's two colors. I'm just going to indicate which one the red one was again. So this is directly out of your textbook. You want to take a look at it on page 58. This is from page 58. So the red is indicated, those are the lynx. So we'll just say the black is the snowshoe hare. So where is bottom-up regulation happening? So we look at the line for the hare, and we see that if you check right here at the very beginning, the line for the hare dips down very low. So then what subsequently happens is, look at this line. The lynx also goes down. Okay, so that's how you see bottom-up regulation happening. Let's look at another place. Well then, as they go up, so then just shortly after, the lynx goes up because there's enough food for them. And this cycle will continue to happen throughout this graph over and over again. The other type of regulation that's happening is top-down regulation. So this is where the top of the food chain controls lower down. So in this case, as the lynx increases, the hares will decrease. So let's see where we can find that happening. Okay, so take a look here. I'll put that definition back in a moment so you could see it. So where the lynx increases and then the snowshoe hare will decrease. So the lynx are increasing, let's say here, really high up here. Well, look what happens right after that. Then as soon as that happens, the lynx increases and then the snowshoe hare goes right down. Okay, the lynx increase and the snowshoe hare goes down. The lynx increases and the snowshoe hare goes down. So it's a repeating cycle, okay? So it depends on which part of the graph you're looking at, where you will see top-down regulation happening or bottom-up regulation happening. So I'll let you take a minute to copy that. Okay, so other types of interactions, again, repeating this from chapter 1, competition, which we've seen already, and competition can limit the size of a population when two or more organisms compete for the same resources. So the example is the song sparrow population. And this is also right in your textbook on page 60, right? So this is from page 60. So if you look on page 60, you can see this graph, and I'm going to show it to you right now. There it is, right? So it says song sparrow population versus egg laying. Okay, so what happens in this graph? Well, as the size of a population of female songbirds increases, the average number of egg laying decreases. So you could see, that's what this line is saying, right? As the number of females increases, the number of eggs decreases. Okay, why? Because the female song sparrows were given extra food, and they did not show a decrease in the number of eggs laid. So that is an example of competition. So competition limits the size of a population because, why? Because the energy of that an organism spends competing, it has then less energy for growth and reproduction. So this is why, as the number of females increase, the number of eggs also would decrease, okay? Because they're just busy competing for other resources, okay? So that's competition. You can read about that on page 60. The last type is symbiosis, which we looked at in detail in chapter 1, but just to remind ourselves what we saw. Symbiosis is the interaction between two different species that live together in close association. So we have mutualism, where both organisms benefit. So a bee pollinating a flower. So the bee is collecting pollen from the flower, and the flower is getting pollinated. Okay? Commensalism. This is where one organism benefits, but the other is neither harmed nor benefits. So a bird making a nest in a tree. So the bird gets a home, and this does not affect the tree at all. It just is in the tree. It doesn't hurt it or doesn't benefit it. And lastly, parasitism, where one organism benefits and the other is harmed, and a tick and a dog. So the tick eats the blood of the dog, and it harms the dog because it's taking its blood and it's causing it to have like an immune reaction and so on. Okay? Okay, so that's the end of 2.2.